Hello everybody, welcome along to this week's edition of the Rebel Wide Ball. I think most experts in the political sphere and the current affairs sphere had promised us we'd have a rather quiet week. Somebody said that there was a few sinners up before the Dáil to make amends for recent Twitter activity. Brian Stanley was one of those. He's the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. He came before the Dáil, made his apologies. I think there was very few around the place. Then the next fella, I think, he's a TD from, South Tipperary, Martin Brown, and he is the chairman of an Oireachtas committee that I never heard of, the Public Petitions Committee. Check that one up now. And anyway, he failed to show, or shall I say, the doctor's note came in and he was off the hook. So everything was going away grand, but then the Nemo Rangers Taoiseach got himself in a little bit of hot water, and normally you don't associate Nemo people with getting drawn into an argument. They usually think things out a little bit better than that. But anyway, there was a discussion going on about the Debenham workers and Richard Boyd Barrett, the socialist from Dunleary. And my God, this fella has the answer for everything. But anyway, he said he made some reference about the bank bailout, and Micheál Martin replied that there was no bank bailout, 64 billion in 2008. I think he was trying to say maybe that a few shareholders lost a few shillings. You probably lost a few yourself out there if you had bought shares. But anyway, no, he quickly made amends, and the following day his good friend Leo came to the rescue and he smoothed it over. So I think that was that, and I'd say that the majority of them are absolutely happy to be heading to the residence for the Christmas vacation. The vaccines continue to keep us entertained, and it would appear now that, on Monday, the European Medicines Agency are going to give permission for the vaccine, the Pfizer's vaccine, to be used. I think there's about 5,000 vials around the place being brought into Ireland. I would think they'll be used more of a publicity stunt than anything else, and it would appear that probably would be the middle of next summer before you'd have general vaccination, and of course that depends on if the majority of people take it up. So I think this story has a bit to go yet, and it would appear that the masks we're still going to have to wear those, and the hand hygiene and not touching and all of this kind of carry on to trying to keep that virus at bay. And to that end, it would appear that NPHET and the Chief Medical Officer, Tony Holohan, is going to recommend probably that some sort of lockdown is going to be introduced shortly after Christmas. I'd say if they had their way, that they'd introduce it right now to stop social activity in particular. So anyway, that's all of that. But isn't it incredible that we're going to have a massive weekend of sport in the week leading up to Christmas, and none more so than the All-Ireland Senior Football Final, which takes place in Croke Park tomorrow between, I was going to say, the old rivalries of Dublin and Mayo. I sure like what can we say about the Dubs? Are they the greatest team of all time? Well, some people would argue not. That possibly the Kerry team, I know, you'd say, where is this one going? They were going for 5 in a row. Now, the point that's being made is that team was made up of the same players for all of those 4 or 5 years, or 5 or 6 years, if you like. Whereas the Dublin team, there's been huge changes in personnel over the past number of years, and already this season we have new guys coming in. Robbie McDade, who's coming in instead of Jack McCaffrey. Niall Scully's another fella, relatively new, operates at midfield between Brian Fint and the guy that has never lost a championship match for Dublin. Then you Sean Bugler, you haven't heard too much about him. The Small brothers, and these guys amaze me. Their surname might indicate that they're the genteel kind. These guys are well capable of picking up yellow cards every now and then. And of course, Kieran Kilkenny, who I thought had slipped a little bit, is now in outstanding form. By the way, in matches against Mayo, he hasn't been that impressive in terms of scoring. He's operating near a goal on this occasion. Dean Rock and Conor O'Callaghan, these are outstanding players. And of course, the number one, their goalkeeper, Stephen Cluxton, an outstanding servant. And of course, it could nearly be described as a battle between himself and David Clark, the Mayo custodian. And we have seen David, great keeper, yeah, but making mistakes on a few occasions. What's different about I think the last time that Mayo beat Dublin in a match of any significance was back in 2012. Since then, they've met on 16 occasions, league and championship. and not once have Mayo emerged victorious. But they have, I suppose, played Dublin a number of All-Ireland finals, and the games have been relatively close. I think last year's semi-final where Mayo were beaten by 10 points. So that kind of fuels a belief within us that maybe on this occasion that the long, long famine might be over for Mayo. But look, we're in dream mode when we think that. And for all those Mayo supporters, and none of us really understand what it's like to be a Mayo supporter. Here in Cork, there are so many different sports that we can attach our flag to, but in Mayo, there's only one, and that's the county football team. And, there's Mayo people all over the world. Any of you that have travelled, you probably meet a Mayo person. And the very fact that there's a building in Chicago, the Prudential building, and right along the side of it, all this week, Mayo for Sam. Imagine that. That'll give you their influence in other parts of the world. Sure, look, we'd be delighted if they could win. I suppose if we were to grasp at straws, there is one difference between this Mayo team and we'll say Mayo teams of the past. I'm not saying they're better, by the way, no. And I have to be convinced of that. But there's a number of new players. I think that the James Horn, their manager, and their coaching staff organised a number of tries, and they did get a number of new players coming through. Oisin Mullen and Owen McLaughlin are defenders that we haven't had an awful lot before. And these are, good attacking players. And with Paddy Durkin, they play in defence, and Lee Keegan as well. They have a habit of coming up the field, and they'll go at the Dubs. Of course, they'll probably leave gaps behind, and Dublin will get 2 goals in 5 minutes, and we'll have to turn off the televisions. The midfield pairing that Mayo, Aidan O'Shea used to be out there for years, he's now operating more or less full-time inside or full forward. And you've Conor Loftus and Matthew Ruane. And I don't know how good they're defending. They're good attacking players. How good they're winning kickouts, remains to be seen. And then up front, you obviously have the O'Connor brothers. Sometimes I know they're brilliant and all of that, but sometimes on the big day, miss a few frees here and there. I'd have a concern about them. But you have Tommy Conroy, who's come into the side, and he certainly is a good addition. Look, it would be great if they could win it. Absolutely no doubt in the world about that. But you can't look beyond the Dubs. The curtain raiser tomorrow evening is the All-Ireland Under-20 final, where Dublin should get over Galway in that one. Can Dublin make it a 3 in a row for the weekend I'm talking about, or 4 in a row? When it comes to Sunday's big clash that we're interested in, that's the All-Ireland Ladies Football Final, 3:30. Cork and Dublin. If we were talking here about a male sport, we'd be on about the greatest, probably, rivalry of all time, because other than these two teams, the last team to win in All-Ireland was Galway in 2004. They'll give you some indication of what goes on between them. Do they know each other? Do they what? Prior to Dublin winning the first of this bid for 4 in a row, they had been beaten in All-Ireland finals on 3 occasions by Cork. And that was some heartbreaking experience, regardless of what sport you follow. They're a really good team. Carla Rowe got 2 goals and 4 points the last day. Nicole Owens is back after injury. They have all their players back. There's 3 of them that, as soon as this All-Ireland is over, they're going to head to Australia. And these are big, big players. Sinead McGorrick, who plays roughly around centre-back. Lauren McGee, her father Johnny McGee was a great footballer with Dublin. She plays in midfield. And Dean Rock's girlfriend, Niamh McAvoy, who usually lines out as centre forward. The 3 of them will be heading to play in the WFL. This is turning into a bit of a lucrative thing for some of the ladies Gaelic footballers of Ireland. They can go over there for 6 months. I don't know, do they pick up 25 or 30,000? It's an opportunity to play professional sport in a year. They take these year outs and whatever. It's not to be hard to make a career out. But the point of making these are, and Lindsay Davies, another outstanding player, Noel Healy, who won an All-Ireland club with more Nabin, will be in action against Manny for old sparring partner. She may even mark one of them at some stage during Sunday's game. So the point of making, this Dublin team's outstanding. And if we were looking at this from any other county, Dublin are the favourites to win here. In actual fact, it looks like that Dublin can win the Under-20, the All-Ireland football male final, and the ladies football final. However, when we're speaking with the Cork Cat on, we've got to keep positive at all time, and they've put a huge effort into this. The team management, led superbly by Aoife Fitzgerald. Martin O'Brien from Clonakilty, plays with Clonakilty from Ballinascarthy. He's a really reliable goalkeeper, a great leader. The full back line, you've got Emer Meany, a real, do you say man marker, woman marker, person marker. Roisin Fields at full back, travels down from Dublin for all of these training sessions. She's a dentist there playing with St. Bridget's, so she'd know some of the Dublin players. And Shauna Kelly from Ballydesmond, that's the full back line. The half back line, and this is where I think that, if Cork are to win, there can be some serious attacking play from here. Melissa Duggan, one of the outstanding players of ladies Gaelic football. Aisling Hutchins at centre back, and then Erica O'Shea, 18 years of age, leaving such student in Macroom, and she's had a dream debut season for them. The midfield pairing, and these two ladies are good operators in Hannah Looney and Maura O'Callaghan. I should have mentioned probably that somebody who could have a big influence in this is Jonathan Murphy, the referee. I'll tell you why. Ladies football, if they fouls can be, the referee will tick off if a person fouls. These Dublin, I've seen them at it, these Dublin players are absolutely brilliant, and they play on the edge, and sometimes the referees don't cop what they're up to. If this fella does, I think he can have a big say in it, because the number of ticks then follows a yellow card. And I saw Dublin playing Cork a couple of years ago, and there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that a couple of their players should have been sidelined. But they weren't, and will they on Sunday? Anyway, the half-forward line, Emer Coyley, her twin sister Dara, is also involved in the panel, having a great season as well. And then at centre forward, Ciara O'Sullivan, do you have to say any more about her? And Orla Finn, who's great to see featuring on national television. She's a teacher down in Cove, and I think the publicity that this All-Ireland final has got is absolutely brilliant, and well it should. And then the inside line, Anya Terry O'Sullivan, all the ways down there from Ahali's, and Derden O'Sullivan, the team captain, what a great leader. And a corner forward, you have Saoirse Noonan from Nemo Rangers, an outstanding soccer player as well. And maybe off the bench. Now, Dublin have them off the bench as well. But in Cork, you have Maeve Callan, Libby Coppinger, Niamh Cotter, who plays football from Dublin, but the Glengarriff girl is back home now, travels up for training. And Sive O'Leary, just to mention a few. So they've trained well for it. They'll be well organised. It's going to be a huge game. But look, we got to be realistic about it. It would be a big surprise if they win. They carry our absolute best wishes, and it would be fantastic for all of them, because they've put in a huge effort, and I think to make the winter a little bit shorter for us if the Brendan Martin Cup. The Cutting Raiser, by the way, that game is on Happy Street, the All-Ireland, the Cutting Raiser, the intermediate final between Meath and Westmeath. A lot of the Leinster teams, they play in the intermediate championship. It's no wonder they do, because anytime they stick their head above, Dublin are there to give them a bit of a hammering. But anyway, that's the other one if you're interested in that. In terms of soccer, well, we're going to start and compliment, I don't know, did Glasgow Rangers ever think that they'd reached the lofty heights of the Rebel White Ball? Well, they did during the week, when they were beaten after a long unbeaten run by St. Mirren in the Scottish Cup. And it was a young lad from Blarney, Conor McCarthy, who came in and got the late winner. And St. Mirren, this is one of the clubs obviously in Scotland. But yeah, so Rangers, get your act together, or you could be back in this club again, in this sphere again. And well done to Conor McCarthy. I mentioned him though, he played for Cork City in his day. I think he may have captained them, but we have the news in Cork City this week isn't great, to be honest with you. Gravemore, who were the company that owned Preston North, and they kind of had first option. Do you feel that? Sometimes in your silly how somebody might have the first option in buying it. Well, Grovemore had the first option in buying Cork City, and seemingly that now is not going to happen. Some difficulties with Turner's Cross, it would appear. That the grief that's associated with soccer in Leeside continues for another while, despite great work by a number of people in trying to keep it going. So I think that was a blow during the week. In terms of the Premier League, and there's now hotting up usually around Christmas time, it does. Liverpool are back in action against Crystal Palace, and they had a great win against Spurs the other night. The reason I'm kind of smiling is that Jose Mourinho, who's obviously the Spurs manager, the first thing he did to Jurgen Klopp, he said, the best team lost. And I said to him, I was just thinking like that after having been on the sideline once or twice myself, if somebody turned around and say, after you win a match, the best team lost, what do you do in a case like that? Anyway, Man City, and by the way, they're not going great guns either. They play Southampton, who are having a good season, to be fair to them. And a couple of years ago, when they had a couple of good seasons, Liverpool came along and bought all their good players. So like maybe something like that would happen again. Arsenal, who are not having a good season, and their supporters in this neck of the woods are suffering this whether they play Everton. Spurs get an opportunity to get back on top again when they play Leicester. Interesting that Leicester also lost during the week. And of course, Manchester United, they had, I suppose you call it, they had a good enough win after conceding an early goal to Sheffield United. They play Leeds, and seemingly in the past, Man United Leeds was a big game. Well, it is now. And it's amazing, United, you kind of associate losing with them this weather, and still they're unbeaten on the road. They mostly concede matches or goals earlier on, and then they try and claw them back and win them. They need to get their act together and be a little bit more consistent. And Sam Allardyce, he's back in charge of West Brom after Slaven Bilic was fired during the week. And Sam Allardyce, who started off his coaching career here, I can't believe I'm talking about this fella. But anyway, he spent a while with Limerick. That's where he learned a bit of his coaching. So he's back and he'll have an opportunity when they play Aston Villa. So that's a brief look at soccer. In terms of rugby, during the week, by the way, the draws were made for the World Cup. Don't worry too much about it. We're in a group, I think, with South Africa and Scotland. The experts tell us that Ireland will qualify the quarterfinals. They normally will, and then they'll play New Zealand or France, and you know what normally happens after that. But if the international rugby doesn't do it for you, certainly the Champions Cup is a competition that's, I don't fully understand how it is working, but hopefully we'll get the hang of it. Every team is going to play 4 matches, and then we're going to be into quarterfinals. The French teams usually, they have, in the past they used them in a different approach to it, but it would appear they're taking it seriously. And last week in the French club, 7 out of 8 of them had wins. By the way, in this weekend's, Leinster play Northampton. Now, by the way, Northampton seemingly have no interest. They're bringing the competition into disrepute. They're putting out a second team, and it would appear that Leinster are going to qualify because they won a great game last week away, I think, against Montpellier. And so it would appear that they will do well in that one. And of course, Munster are in action after a win against Harlequins, and there was a bit of grief here because of the grief that their young out half, Ben Healy, got. And my God, he got a couple of right belts. But anyway, they play Claremont. And, if Munster, basically, this thing is going to come down to points difference and bonus point losses and bonus point wins. So if you want to impress at rugby this weekend, if Munster come back from France with a bonus point loss, seemingly that's a good result. What about Connacht? And, that they travelled away last week and nearly caused the biggest shock. They were beaten by 2 points by Racing. And they play they're playing Bristol this weekend. And Pat Lamb, who did great work for Connacht, he's now with the Bristol Bears, and there's a number of Johnny Muldoon is over there. There's a number of the Connacht players of Connacht play with Bristol, so they're going to be in action back in the showgrounds in that one. And finally, Ulster, who I suppose left the country down last weekend, they had a loss and they played Gloucester, so they need to start winning there, if you like. So yeah, that's our look at sport this week. So until the next time, take care.